We're on pod. We're doing a podcast. It's back. We're back. It's back on pod.
The boys are back. Yeah.
Where's Thin Lizzy?
You know us from The Looking Glass.
Shut the fuck up.
You know us from Senioritis.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
All two of them.
So,
maybe we'll make 3 of this one.
Let's jump right in. My name is Eli.
I'm Luke. I'm Lucas.
And we're doing a podcast.
It's a pod time.
Again.
We're podding again. Back in the... Now this is pod racing is what's going on. What's this one about? This one's about movies now?
I don't know. I think it's going to be like pop culture in general. I think we can probably do one for like the Game of Thrones finale when that happens because we don't have to pay for that.
I don't like
we're already paying for it. Yeah, it's bad now.
Whatever.
But we'll get to that on the next episode.
I love podcasts. I wanted to make a podcast because I listen to other podcasts and it's not me talking, so I want to hear myself talk. I want to hear Eli talk too, because I missed his beautiful voice and his beautiful face.
Not enough people have the exact opinions that we have.
We're cutting it from the pod.
Yeah, as two white men in our 20s, I really feel like we're tapping into a unique market.
Here's my pitch. Here's my pitch
world.
to Vice. We're Siskel and Ebert, but we get really high first.
Yeah, I did smoke before I went to see this movie.
And watch movies instead. It's called I don't know, something about weed in it. We could have Action Bronson on the show, Spike Jones on the show, anybody else who works at Vice on the show, the chef who cooks with weed on the show. Anybody who's on Viceland can come join our Viceland show that I'm pitching right now. So I'm gonna mail this podcast to them. It's gonna be a cassette tape of this podcast. This is gonna get mailed to them. That'd be a good time. Hopefully we'll be on Viceland soon. What do you think about joining Viceland?
I think that's a great pitch. Yeah, I think we'd fit right in.
I think we'd fit right in there.
Yeah, we don't have a name yet, so they can maybe help us think of a name.
Help us think of a name, Viceland.
By the time this is uploaded, it'll need to have a name, but we'll worry about that when we upload it.
All right. So what movie did we see?
Well, tonight we're here to talk about Pokemon Detective Pikachu, which is the full name of the movie.
It's the full name of the movie.
It's Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
In case you didn't know who Pikachu was. Iconic 1990s character.
And I think before we get started, I think let's just go ahead
We didn't open our Pokemon.
Yeah, they gave out Pokemon cards at the movie when we bought our ticket, so I think we're going to start off with an unwrapping.
Did you get a Pikachu?
Yeah, everyone gets a Pikachu. In fact, it's a Detective Pikachu.
Well, what Detective Pikachu did you get? It's
a Detective Pikachu with Coffee Break.
What? Is he drinking coffee?
And Corkscrew Punch.
I can't open mine. Hold on. He has Corkscrew Punch too?
Yeah, I bet they all have.
He didn't actually, No,
he didn't do that in the movie.
that in the movie. It's pretty... Spoiler. Spoilers all over.
Yeah, this is going to be a spoiler-filled podcast.
In case you were wondering if there was going to be any spoilers for Detective Pikachu in this movie, there's going to be tons of spoilers, so...
Yeah, I mean, I think we can both agree that the most interesting parts of this movie are the spoilers. You're having real trouble with that. Do you want me to open that for you?
I have sweaty hands. I can't open it. Yeah, open it for me.
All right.
Dad.
Spoiler.
You got a Lickitung.
Yeah, I did. Oh, man, this is really hard to open. All right, there we go.
Why is yours so easy? What did I get? Give me my Pokemon. Yes, I got a coffee one, too.
Yeah, I think everyone gets the same Detective Pikachu card.
No, I don't think... I think there's like 3 different ones.
Oh, really?
I got Psyduck. Good.
Ah, nice. Your Psyduck is way better than my Lickitung.
Yeah, no, it's not. Lickitung, well, let me see it. Let me tell you right here. Flip a coin. If you get tails, this attack does 20 damage for each heads. Flip a coin until you get tails. So it would just keep licking. If you keep hitting heads, you're doing 20 times whatever. How many
okay,
heads
that's
you
actually
get.
pretty good. That's not bad.
All my Psyduck does is it does 10 damage and becomes confused.
But I think we can agree that Psyduck played a unique role in this movie.
I think Psyduck is a great Pokemon, mainly because it's a duck and I like ducks.
This movie definitely made me appreciate Psyduck more than I did just as a player of the games.
All right, so going in, what was your Pokemon experience?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. So Pokemon, I played a lot of the Game Boy games. I played Ruby the most, but I also definitely played Crystal. I played like Silver or something. I played like Black when it came out. and probably a couple more in between that I can't recall off the top of my head. But I played the most in the Ruby Sapphire generation.
I've had 17 points towards going to the World Championship of Pokemon in 2017. So I'm good at Pokemon. I'm the best there ever was.
What's your initial impression of the movie? What would be your initial?
Real talk. So it's not like the movie was like bad. It's definitely like a passable movie. It's hard to just be like, oh yeah, this movie's just like terrible or whatever, because like you know everything that's gonna happen when as soon as like you enter the theater and like get the setup, you're like, oh yeah, okay, everything that's laid out for me is like I can tell by the numbers what's going to happen. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's like, oh, like this is going to be a bad time. It's like I like this story. That's why I'm here to see it. And I actually enjoyed myself a lot watching this movie. I was laughing throughout. They make a like really like weird jokes that are just like not on tone for what you think like would be in a Pokemon movie. Like they had a joke about doing cocaine. They uttered the word birth. It's not a word. It's two words, but they uttered birth canal in the movie. It was pretty cool. Not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's some jokes about caffeine addiction. There's a joke about setting a Pokemon on fire.
Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, they really do embrace the fact that they are aping the noir genre. That is the basic setup for the movie. Most of the cliches of what you're going to find in the movie are just a very by-the-numbers detective story.
Not like the Maltese Falcon, but okay.
Yeah, it's no Maltese Falcon. It's a Maltese Pikachu.
Maltese Pikachu.
Yeah, I would say I felt okay about it. I enjoyed myself at different times. If I would say anything, I would say I wish the action sequences were maybe a little more inspired, but I thought the actual emotional core of the movie and the actual story they were telling, they did a really good job communicating. So yeah, I think a movie that just tries to tell its own story and succeeds at communicating its own story is a successful movie. That's how I define a success for a movie, is do you achieve your goals? So did Detective Pikachu achieve its goals? I would say mostly. I would say I had a good time, and it's clearly trying to be a comedy. I would say I appreciated the main connection between the characters that the movie is about.
Can we just like talk about what happens, or?
Yeah. Well, do you want to do a quick recap?
Let's just do a rundown.
All right.
So it starts off with our main character. Or no, it first starts off with a breakout. The legendary Pokemon number 150 Mewtwo breaks out of prison, Pokemon prison. They're doing like experiments on him. You don't know what it is yet. And blows up a car. He goes, like, a car's driving away from the prison, and Mewtwo just blows it up because he's, like, fucking hates cars, I guess. And then it cuts to the main character's name is Tim Goodman, in case you wanted to make sure that he was the good guy in the movie. His friend is trying to, like, help him out because, like, Tim's, very thoroughly depressed. So he's like, okay, let me get you out of your funk and we'll catch you a Pokemon, because you don't have a Pokemon in your life. You're incredibly lonely and you need like a Pokemon, because they live in a Pokemon world.
Yeah, I think it's important to establish here that they very specifically set the movie in Rhyme City, a city where Pokemon and people live together, and is in fact explicitly stated to be in contrast to the rest of the Pokemon regions where Pokemon live in the wild.
Right.
They really point that out very specifically, that this is a no-battle city. And despite that, there's going to be, like, a lot of battles in this movie.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, it's pretty cool, though, that they like, acknowledge it's like, all of these other... In our world, all of these other regions exist, but we also have, like... Because I'm pretty sure they speak French and Spanish at one point. So they're, like, also, like, France and Spain exist, but... They have Pokemon in them, and also, like, every Pokemon region exists. So, I don't know where geography, like, where it all works, but it's there. Who cares? It's a dumb kids movie. Anyway, what happens? Tim Tim doesn't catch the Pokemon. He tried to catch a Cubone because, so Cubones wear the skull of their dead mothers. Pokemon's real dark. They wear the skull of their dead mothers on top of their actual face, and then they carry around a bone and like hit you with it. And so that's a perfect Pokemon for our protagonist here because he's lonely and his mother's dead.
Yeah.
So
to be clear, his best friend tricks him into going out to catch this Cubone because his friend is like, "Oh man, Cubone like is this guy?"
He's just like, "You're just Cubone. Like you're adorable, and your mom's dead, and that's the grief of all of that is just pouring on top of you." So you're just gonna catch this guy, and he's unsuccessful. He just pisses off the Cubone, and then they go away. And he gets a phone call from the police department, and the police are like, "Your dad is also dead now." And he's like, "Shit, I guess like I'm an orphan." A little orphan Funkhauser. So he has to go back to the city to basically like he just goes in to like collect his dad's stuff, I guess. He wasn't very much a fan of his dad, I guess, or his dad wasn't involved in his life. They kind of like he was raised by his grandma or whatever.
Was his grandma still around in the present day of this movie? I don't think we saw her.
I don't think we saw her at all. I think we just only see her in the flashbacks where they're just like, "Oh yeah, your dad's not around. Your mom's dead." So he bumbles around and he goes to the guy from Inception, the Japanese guy from Inception's. He's the head of the police department, right?
Yeah, Ken Watanabe.
Oh, that's his name?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
That's the actor's name.
Cool. So he goes to Ken Watanabe's office and he's like, "Can you just give me the keys to my dad's apartment?" Which I don't know why Ken Watanabe would have them, but it's fine. It's, again, kids movie. He goes there and he opens the mailbox to, like, he gets to his dad's apartment, opens the mailbox. And his dad has a shit ton of mail, but he doesn't take any of it. And there's the chick there, right?
Yeah, when he goes to pick up the mail, this girl is kind of has been watching the mailbox to see who comes to open it.
Which is really, like, doesn't make any sense.
It's a pretty interesting choice. I mean, it pays off for her, but it definitely could have easily just not have. I guess someone had to get his mail, but
she just was staking out, like, waiting for this guy or whoever to come back to the apartment and just was going to question them. It turns out she is an intern at the like media conglomerate in this city, which apparently the city is run by this like old dude who had like cancer or some shit and like can't walk anymore. So he like fucked off and like hung out with Pokemon for like 10 years or something, and then like came back and was like, "Oh, I have to make this city where like we live with Pokemon." And so he just like establishes this city with unlimited resources, I guess. Like he just I don't like. I feel like cities take like years and years and years to develop, right? Like you don't like it starts up like at something small, and then it builds up until like when you actually like get.
Yeah, I mean you can have things like planned cities. You can have things that are meant to spring up, as a development as a whole. But Rhyme City looks very lived in. It looks very crowded, very very pressed together. It feels like if it was something that had sprung up basically overnight is how it was explained. Like he just decided to create the city. You'd think it would look a little different than it does, but you know what? It's cool. Like there's a lot of fun stuff going on. Pokemon have jobs or something.
It's like Blade Runner. Like that's what the city's kind of like. Except there's less. It's better lit. Yeah, there's less pollution. Yeah, less advertisements, but it sort of has that same feel as like. There's this Asian aesthetic that's kind of to it with like Japanese everywhere, and
it's like English. It's like English words, but with Japanese accoutrement on the letters, like to make it look very stylized. It's actually a pretty cool font that they use. I'm a big fan of fonts.
What's that girl's? Well, I don't even remember the girl's name.
I don't remember the character's name at all, but the actress is Catherine Newton.
Yeah, so Catherine Newton, she like presses him and something.
Because he doesn't know anything. Talk to her. He's like, I don't know what's going on.
He's like, I literally just got here. Why would you think I know anything? Which is like actually pretty fair. Yeah. And so he goes into his apartment, his dad's apartment, and finds this vial of gas.
Yeah. So of course, the first thing he decides to do is just open it.
So heavy like promoting drug use in this movie, which is pretty cool. Like kids just.
What do you think he thought was going to happen when he opened that vial?
Because it had an R on it, I thought it was like they were going to be Team Rocket something. Like that's what I initially thought about it, but I figured it was going to be some kind of goop or whatever. And that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah, it's fair. He might have expected it to be like a liquid, but no, it was like a gas. And
yeah.
it immediately is huge and goes out the window. At which point it goes up the noses of some APOMs who are hanging out on the side of the building.
Because Pokemon just do that now.
Yeah, they can go anywhere. It's Rhyme City.
See, but here's a world building thing. The philosophy is that they're not going to live in the wild anymore, but they're just going to live in a city. But isn't that like the same thing as living in the wild? It's just you're in an urban environment instead.
Yeah, I don't know why that's better for the Pokemon to live in an urban environment when like the large majority of them are nature based. They're definitely not all.
There are Pokemon that like do stuff in like the Pokemon world and Pokemon games. Like they help out with things and like they're cooperative in other regions. It's just that they don't necessarily live there unless it's like, oh, like that's my Machop. He's Machopping and he's in my house.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the games, weren't certain Pokemon able to do different things depending on if you're in a city or not? Like certain electric fields for some of the Pokemon, or like in industrial areas. That sounds, maybe I'm making that up, but that sounds right to me.
No, there's some stuff like it depends on what game you're playing, but some of the,
I think that's some of the more recent ones.
Some of the dudes can do certain stuff. They have moves that you can do like outside of battle to do certain things or activate, like unlock certain areas that you can't get to if you don't have a Pokemon who knows that move. It's just weird because it's like, it's not like a gripe that I have. It's just more like, okay, like it's just you have to accept that this is how their concept of what Pokemon is in this is like, this is why they're all in the city, and that just explains why they're there basically, instead of just being out wherever to go find them, because you would think that nature doesn't come through in the city, but I don't know, we see dogs and shit in the city all the time.
Yeah, and I'm not particularly I don't feel that any property adaptation needs to be dedicated to the canon, as long as it tells its own story in a logical
there
way.
Is a ton of explaining like in this movie where they just kind of explain like this is just how things are.
It really tries to be a movie that people who aren't familiar with Pokemon could go see without context, but I wouldn't recommend it.
I think that if you have to have a general knowledge of that's Pikachu and like that's like a Pokemon, and that they're creatures that can do magical things because that's what they do, and as long as you got that, you're good. If you do know more and you know about type advantage and effectiveness, then the movie gets ruined for you.
So let's back up with the plot.
Yeah.
So Timmy is in Harry's apartment, and after he opens the vial and waves away the fumes, and he's totally high now, he wanders into, I guess, like what was supposed to be his bedroom.
Right. So his dad is a creep and decided that instead of like, because he wanted his son to live with him, but his son made a conscious effort to not live with his dad because his dad was a total jerk to him. But his dad wanted him to live there in the city with him instead of out in the suburbs with his grandma, and built a room that was just his kid's room, and like just the same room that he had in the suburbs to a T. Like he's got his trophies. Like he bought
replicas of all the posters.
Like the posters I get, like, and the bed I get. He had like Pokemon cards in it. I don't know if they took the collection there or if it was like if he just got another set of Pokemon cards.
I also like the idea that there are still Pokemon cards in this universe because it's like baseball cards, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I mean that makes sense.
It does make sense. I like it.
So first of all, if you're trying to win your son back, don't do that. That is not gonna. That's not gonna work.
To be fair, Tim doesn't seem fazed by that specifically.
Family court will not rule in your favor.
But then he goes into the main room and you know there's some rustling around, a little yellow dashes by, like what's going on?
There's a little rustle.
And of course it's Pikachu. So that we got our introduction to Pikachu.
Detective
Pikachu. Yeah, he wears a little detective's hat.
He's adorable, and I love him.
He is super adorable. What do you think of the creature design? Let's talk about that at this point.
So I said this when we were coming out of the movie. So in the credits sequence, they do basically like what the Pokemon art is now. Like whoever the Pokemon, I don't know who druid or whatever, but Pokemon has a very specific art style for their games, and they try to keep it like consistent. It's evolving, but it's trying to keep it like consistent throughout each game, and it's very stylized. It's very like, this is like, when you look at it, you're like, that's Pokemon, right? Actually, there's a study that I read, or an article about a study that I read, that if you were experienced like 2 Pokemon when you were growing up in the 90s, like in that development age, there is a spot in your brain that is dedicated to recognizing Pokemon.
Wow.
So like you like when you see a Pokemon, if you know its name or like you know it's a Pokemon, that spot lights up, and it's the same spot each time.
Yeah, I will say, every time I saw a little Growlithe walking around in this movie, I was real happy.
You're like, Growlithe, yeah.
Yeah, Growlithe's fucking great.
Yeah, when you see your like Totodile's mine, it shows up for like 2 seconds, and I see him, I'm like, yeah, Totodile, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the creature design was pretty good. When I watched the trailers, I thought, okay, I want to see it in context before I make a judgment. I was a little worried, honestly. I thought trying to 3D model what has always been basically 2D could easily go badly. But for the most part, I liked the designs.
I didn't think so. This is what I was getting to before I went off, is that when you look at it from like the aspect of this is what Pokemon look like when you see them like in the game, or how they're drawn in like whatever art style they're being displayed in, and you recognize that it's a Pokemon there, it's like, okay, cool. But when I see them in this kind of like CGI, I understand that they're trying to do they're trying to make it as realistic as possible, like how they might look or would look in our world, right? And I think it accomplishes that. It's like got a sense of like believability, and there's like, oh, like the Pokemon that are like a lizard would like have scales. Like Charizard has like scales, right? Which would make sense. It's a flying lizard Pokemon. It should have scales. But it's still jarring to me, because I'm so used to seeing like the anime kind of style art for the Pokemon, where it's very just like smooth and like looks nice, and like you don't really like think about that kind of like real world aesthetic to it when you would translate that over.
Yeah,
and they clearly did, and and I think that for what they were going for, it doesn't look. I don't think it looks bad. I just think it looks jarring.
No, that's a really good point, because honestly the designs are not actually all that different from what they look like in 2D, except for the texturing. Like,
right.
Pokemon's all his hair and fur, tufts of fur coming off. Yeah, Charizard like really has that craggly, scaly look.
Yeah.
They do basically look like the cartoons that they are, just with a lot of texture on top, which occasionally is a little weird.
Yeah, it's just like that's not the cute Pokemon that I like. Hello.
Yeah, there's a real smoothness to the animation in the TV show especially, but also the games. Yeah, you don't think about what it would actually feel like to touch them. They all just look.
You just want them to be in the game, like
yeah.
when like if you ever play Pokemon Go, like they're using the same kind of asset and sprites that they're using like these newer games that transition to 3D models, and they're using those assets there, and they look great because it's just like there's an AR version.
Pokemon Go designs are pretty nice.
Yeah, it's just an AR version of like a cartoon Bulbasaur, just like in my living room. Cool. Like I'll throw my AR Pokeball at him. It looks great because I know it's a game. But when we transition it over here, it's like that can't be real for what we're trying to accomplish here. They're trying to feel like they're all in the same world and not have it look fake like it does in the AR.
Yeah, I will say I think they made the right choice to, there's the uncanny valley where something looks too real and it looks, and they're not in there at all. They very purposefully stopped short of it rather than trying to supersede it. Because they are still cartoonish. They look kind of fake, but in a way that I think is a good choice rather than trying to go more realistic than they did.
Right.
Because putting them next to a person, it's like, it does look weird kind of when they're next to a person, because one of them is clearly CGI and one of them is not. But if they had tried to make it not look like CGI, I think they would have gotten real creepy.
So, after he meets Pikachu, and he can understand Pikachu, Tim can, like, normally Pokemon can either like grunt and say something weird, or they just say their name. That's about it.
Yeah.
They can't talk. Except this Pikachu can talk to Tim. Like, you can understand each other. And he's Ryan Reynolds. It's literally just Ryan Reynolds, like, just being himself and trying to be, like, a funny guy the entire time. This is why I don't like Ryan Reynolds, is because everything that like he is in is just like he's a guy at a party he's just trying too hard to get everybody to like him. And like he's trying to crack wise like all the time, trying to be the funniest person like at the party. I can never take him. That I just don't like him. I just can't like him.
Yeah, I would say I feel pretty neutral about Ryan Reynolds. Deadpool's okay. You know, I think Deadpool is a great role for Ryan Reynolds. I think that is very much like the perfect role for him specifically. And in Detective Pikachu, I do think that, you know, the character is someone who it is said a couple times in the movie. The Detective Pikachu character. I gotta refer to him by his proper titles here.
Yeah, you can call him Pikachu one more time. I swear.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu is someone who repeatedly says that they are someone who pushes people away. So to have Ryan Reynolds, who does seem like kind of try hard, like trying to impress people, trying to make happy and jokey, does make sense for that character as someone who does seem like they need to use that as a crutch sort of for human interaction and to make a connection with someone. But did you think it was different enough from his other performances?
I don't watch any Ryan Reynolds movies, so.
Have you seen Deadpool, either of them?
I've seen Green Lantern and Deadpool, and that's,
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen Green Lantern. I hear it's bad.
Woo!
Yeah. So this is definitely better than Green Lantern.
I turned Green Lantern off in, like, the middle of it, because I'm a Green Lantern head, and I'm just like, this is ruining my life. So... What happens next? They meet up. They realize that they could talk to one another.
And then the Apoms attack.
Yeah, the Apoms attack them, and because they get all pissed off when they
the purple vial.
That good perp.
That good.
That good perp.
Purple kush.
That purple kush.
Yeah, that's maybe my least favorite action scene in the movie. Actually, it really starts off on a weak action note.
They just like the Apoms just like chase him around the building. They eventually escape.
Ryan Reynolds makes quips.
Yeah, they like Pikachu, Detective Pikachu is just talking the whole time, just like making fun of him and doesn't do anything to help.
No,
just keep running, dude. They get away eventually into like an alleyway, and the Apoms just stop because I guess
it wears off.
Their high comes down, and they're just like, "What were we doing again? Oh, we were just chilling. Like, let's go back to hanging out on the sign here." They start talking. They go get a coffee. I think he realizes that he's wearing a hat and it belongs to his dad. That's why he wears the hat, is because it's what he knows.
Yeah, and it basically comes out that he was at the apartment because it was the address written in the hat. And
right.
And basically they put together that Detective Pikachu has lost his memories is the deal.
Right, that's what I forgot to explain.
So yeah, he's lost his memories, and they basically put together that Detective Pikachu was Harry, Tim's dad's partner.
Here's something that I want to talk about real quick. You're not limited on the number of Pokemon that you can have in these games, in life, really. Like, you can have more than one.
You can catch them all.
That's the whole point, is that you're supposed to catch them all and become all of their friends. But apparently in this world, you can only have one life Pokemon partner.
Which that's not an entirely new concept, because the TV show definitely has, like, human Pokemon pairings as foundational relationships, and then there's like Pokemon Yellow, where you do have Pikachu walking around with you the whole time, and he's your main man.
You can put that boy away.
Yeah, you can put him away. You can, but like, come on.
I put that boy away. He's not that good.
But then why are you playing Pokemon Yellow?
Because it's got all the Pokemon in it. You don't have to trade between blue and red.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. So what happens after they get the coffee and they realize, well, what do they?
Oh, they get the coffee and they're like, we have to figure out the case.
They think Harry might have faked his own death.
Something
or
like
someone
they're like
faked
we
his
think
death.
we think Harry's still alive.
Yeah, they basically convinced themselves
we
he's
have to
still
go and figure this out. And he's like, "Oh, I know. I literally just met someone who can help us out in the situation because she was looking for my dad. She works at the news station. Let's go to the news station."
Which is called CNM.
CNM?
CNM. Which I'm assuming... I don't know if they ever actually say what it's... Do they say what it stands for? I think it's Clifford News...
Media
Network. Or something?
News Media.
Because I don't know what the fuck... Because the guy who founded the city, his last name is Clifford, and then the guy who is his son, who runs the... CNM is also Clifford because he's a son. So it must be Clifford News something.
So they walk in on Clifford So they just walk into the studio. That's not how it works.
Yeah, also it seems like the only room in this building is a studio that all the characters just happen to be in.
Well, I'm going to take that back. That is how it works, because in Pokemon, you literally can just go wherever. There's
true!
There
It's
are
very
no locked doors.
It's very loyal
and
to the game.
if something is locked, there's a reason why, and you can unlock it later. It's just because you haven't got there yet. And so you could walk into the... Like, I'm pretty sure there is TV studios in a Pokemon game that you can walk into and you make, like, a movie in it.
That
like,
sounds familiar.
No, it's definitely in black and white. Yeah, so, like, it's... I accept it. In the accepted Pokemon canon, we just trust everybody. Totally accept it here. It's great. So he just walks into this, like, they're hyping up a Pokemon parade. They're gonna have a Pokemon parade because it's like I think it's been 10 years, right?
Yeah, I think it's like the 10-year anniversary of the city or something.
Yeah, it's been the 10-year anniversary of the city. They're gonna have a parade. Of course, love parades. Love the Pokemon floats. Everybody's gonna be there. It's gonna be a great celebration. Except the dad says he's like the founder and like the best person ever, and then the son is all pissed off at his dad because it's like, dude, like, you are the worst. Like, you're actually not that great.
It's actually really funny you said that, because the son is played by Chris Gere, who is in a TV show called You're the Worst.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a good show. He's good. I like him as an actor.
I probably saw him in an ad for it and then subconsciously made that link.
And then the dad, for the record, is
because
Bill
I'm
Nighy,
a psychic type
which is
Pokemon.
great casting for this character.
I feel like I see him in other... I only know him from Love Actually, but he's in other stuff, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've seen him in a ton of stuff, and off the top of my head, I'm like, I feel like you're just always around. I can't think of what specifically I've seen you in.
So the son and the dad and the son have a falling out, and so the dad like wheels away.
Yeah, they're really hitting their themes hard here. Like, it really is daddy issues, the movie.
Yeah, it really is about just like, man, I wish I was a better pal with my dad. The intern girl goes up to the son, and it's like, I have this story, I want to run it. I know I'm just an intern, but let me run it. And he's like, you don't have any proof. Like, we're not going to publish it because you literally are just making it up.
Like, who are you?
Like, why, you're an unpaid intern. They actually make that joke in it, and I'm like, I can relate.
I appreciated that.
I'm like, cool.
I didn't get paid for either of the internships that I had.
So she gets dismissed, and Tim Goodman walks up to her and is like, I need more information about my pops. She's like, what did she says that like he was like following the case and like knew what R was, right?
Yeah.
Go down to the docks. She was like, down by the docks is where like you'll find.
Well, she basically says she shows Tim that she also found some of these purple vials, because he shows her like, look what I found, and she's like, oh shit, I know what that is. Let's go somewhere else. And she has a whole stash of them that she found at the docks, which is where she heard they were being like sold or whatever.
Yeah, they go to like her office, which is like Harry Potter's bedroom in the first movie, and they have like an awkward thing, and he's like, oh, I gotta get back to like my room. He says something about like, I'm really good like alone at night or something like that.
Yeah, it's
he makes a masturbation joke basically in a kid's movie.
He basically great. Yeah, he jokes about not getting laid at all, and then Ryan Reynolds is like, that sounded bad. And he tries to play it cool to Catherine Newton. So
they go to the dock. They meet a Mr. Mime at the dock, who's apparently the informant. And they have to... So Mr. Mime is a Pokemon. It's a mime. And canonically, it can say its own name, Mr. Mime. And it's it can talk there. So I don't... In this movie, it cannot talk. It is just straight up a mime.
I was okay with that as a choice.
Which is fine, whatever. If people don't know. It does a thing where it's basically like they have to talk to it like it's a mime, so they mime doing certain stuff to it. It traps itself in a box. They try to play good cop, bad cop. It's like they're trying to do for like the comedy in it.
They play little charades.
Yeah, they play like charades trying to figure out what Mr. Mime is saying. It gets to a point where they're going to light Mr. Mime on fire.
In Mime.
In Mime though, like he like pours Mime pouring gasoline on him. Then Mime's trying to light a match on him, and the Mr. Mime plays it pretty cool. Like the Mr. Mime's like blowing out the match, and like it's actually a pretty like funny scene.
It's a good moment.
Like when you break it down, great physical comedy from the Mr. Mime. The Mr. Mime reveals to them that they're using the chemical at these underground Pokemon battles, which they go to, and they see that like the chemical is being exposed there, and I'm convinced that the DJ is Diplo, and I want to look it up. Give me a second to look it up. You can go and explain more.
All right, I'll move on with the. So yeah, they had a club, and the Loud Reds are speakers / the DJ's buddies, and it turns out this club is actually a secret. It's an underground Pokemon battle ring, basically.
It is Diplo.
It is Diplo.
Diplo was in the Pokemon Detective Pikachu, Pokemon Detective Pikachu the movie, featuring Philly's own Diplo.
Gotta represent.
Gotta represent.
And so they're at this underground Pokemon battle, and they realize that the purple is here. The Serum R.
That good kush.
Yeah, they got it here. So they're about to hit up one of their dealers, but then one of the DJs recognizes Detective Pikachu.
Right, Detective Pikachu apparently was in the underground fight club for Pokemon here. And just fucked up a Charizard like you do. Actually, makes sense canonically because he does have type advantage. Charizard is fire flying. Uncommon. People think that he's fire dragon. It's not true.
No, he's not a dragon type.
Fire flying type Pokemon. Pikachu is electric, so electric moves are super effective versus flying here.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally believable in my scenario here. Like one good Thunderbolt should knock out that Charizard pretty easily. So I buy it. That's good. Basically, this guy, he's got a pretty sick Charizard tattoo. And got some pretty dope Charizard as well. It's got this cool looking scar on his face.
That Detective Pikachu gave him.
That Detective Pikachu gave him because Detective Pikachu is a badass. And they challenge him. He's like, I'll tell you what you need to know, but you gotta fight me. Like, Detective Pikachu has to fight my Charizard again. He doesn't have to win. He just got to fight him.
Yeah, they just want a rematch.
They just want a rematch. They're just like, see, even in Pokemon world, like the bad guys aren't that sinister. Like
they mostly just want to fight.
They're just Pokemon. Like, he's just like, you disrespected my honor. Like, I just want to have another fight with you. If he loses, okay, I'll still tell you. But if he wins, then like I'm gonna tell you anyway. He's like he just is like, I'll give you the information you want, but we just gotta fight first.
But he does before the fight give Charizard some of that perp.
Yeah, he gasses up this Charizard, and they get into a brawl. Pikachu totally shits the bed and cannot. He just forgets how to fight.
Yeah, he's a nervous pooper. He can't get the electricity going through him when everyone's watching him.
Yeah, so he kind of gets fucked up by the Charizard. It gets to the point where Tim has to run in and stomp out the Charizard's tail flame. Now, canonically in Pokemon, Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, they all have a flame on their tail. If that flame is ever extinguished, they die. They're dead. It's just they cannot live if that flame goes out. So he was trying to kill the Charizard.
This movie gets really dark. We get jokes about nipples in this scene. We get an attempted murder in this scene.
Pretty cool.
A lot of drug use.
So when he tries to kill the Charizard's owner runs in, and it gets into a point where he basically falls, and the vials that in his coat all just break out.
Oh yeah.
So all of the Pokemon are smoking that good kush and get crazy with it and start going ape shit.
Yeah, it's like mad Pokemon disease, basically.
Right. There was also
but it's really temporary.
There was also a weird lady there, with pink hair, sunglasses, and pink fingerless gloves. She comes back later. It's very important that you notice that she's there. And I noticed the pink fingerless gloves at first, and I was like, what a weird choice.
But it makes complete sense.
But then I was like, okay, cool. So she's there. All the Pokemon go crazy. Everybody starts running for their lives. Basically, everybody disperses except for a Magikarp that's there, Detective Pikachu, and then the Charizard again.
And Tim,
yeah. And it's starting up the brawl because the Charizard's just gassed to the maximum at this point. And then the Magikarp evolves into a Gyarados and bails him out of the situation.
But it evolves into a Gyarados right after the perp wears off the Charizard.
Oh, right. So right when they didn't need that to happen,
yeah.
Like it evolves
and
into
they flood the joint.
And yeah, the Gyarados hits a hydro pump, floods that joint, and then they get arrested, which makes sense. But yeah, I mean, like, no, it does, because the Pokemon probably like blew the shit out of that, and someone called the cops, and the cops came.
People would have noticed.
First responders showed up, and they were like, all right, let's arrest these people.
But nothing really happens to him because they go back to their bud Ken.
Because in the Pokemon world, there's not a lot of serious crime. I think I guess murder is probably pretty serious. But even then, it's just like, oh, your father died in a car crash. We're just not going to open up an investigation at all.
Yeah, it really feels like, and it does not turn out that the police were involved in any sort of cover up, which means they really just botched this investigation. They were lazy as shit.
They were like, we didn't find a body. Like, I guess he's just dead. There's no way that he couldn't survive it at all. It was only an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, basically at this point,
felt like a long time.
At this point, Ken Watanabe basically tells our guys that Harry is dead. He basically thinks that Harry is dead.
They review the footage.
And there's footage.
There's apparently just footage of everything in
oh yeah, there's a lot of sequences
this Big Brother movie.
It's weird.
So they just have this footage of the car just exploding off of the road because Mewtwo blew it up and just going into a ditch and just going on fire, and they're just yeah, no one would survive that. We didn't even investigate this. Your dad's dead. Sorry, buddy. So disgruntled, he's outside sitting there, and he's like, my dad is really gone. I'm all sad now. I know I didn't really get along with him, but it was my dad, and I was holding out hope that he might be alive here. And Detective Pikachu's just like, hey man, it's not your fault. These things, they happen for a reason. And then the pink-haired lady shows back up, tells him to get in the van.
She doesn't even say anything.
Oh, she doesn't say anything.
She just gets them into the van.
Yeah, she gets them in a van. And then she takes him to the Big Clifford, the dad Clifford.
Yeah. Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Clifford the Big Red Dad. They take him up to the thing there. So he's got these statues on the back thing. It's Dialga, Arceus, and Palkia.
Thank you for remembering the names.
So if you don't know, Dialga is the Pokemon that's supposed to control time. Palkia controls space, and Arceus is in the middle, essentially the god Pokemon. All Pokemon can generate, can trace their lineage back to them. Also, all Pokemon have the same DNA as Mew. There's a strand of DNA that Mew comes from in there. I think Ditto has the most, which is why it can transform. That's why it does what it does. Yeah, canonically, I think Mew stems from everything, but Arceus created all the Pokemon. That's canon.
Yeah, so those statues are there. Those things do not come into play in the movie, but I did that they were
that they do have Pokemon mythos in here, which is pretty cool.
And it makes sense that the Bill Nighy, Clifford the Big Red Dad character would be obsessed with the most powerful Pokemon that he could be.
So Clifford, he invites him in. He evolves his Eevee into a Flareon real quick, which I didn't see a Firestone. Don't know. He didn't throw it out or anything, or I'm not really sure. I guess it just was.
Well, they're fucking with Pokemon genetic mutation and experiments and shit. So it's totally possible he hacked a way to to evolve Eevees without a stone.
I don't believe it. I don't buy it. My suspension of disbelief gone.
But anyway, we quickly enter another sequence of footage.
Yeah, so we watched footage just a couple scenes ago. Now we're watching footage, but it's virtual,
it's
reality.
A hologram.
It's hologram
that fills
footage.
The whole room and transports them to the scene of the crash.
And shows them that it actually shows the dad flying out of the car. I don't understand how they. I
think he's just crawling out of it.
He crawls out of the car,
yeah.
And it shows that Mewtwo actually came and murdered him. Just straight up came out of
disappeared his body.
Just eviscerated.
Yeah.
Him. Just was you're done. You're done. Yeah, it just shows him that, and basically was and his Clifford just okay, Tim, I know who you are. I actually hired your dad to search for Mewtwo because we need Mewtwo. Why did they say they needed Mewtwo? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I think he's just we searched him to find Mewtwo.
Yeah.
And the bad guys, I think he says that did he say the bad guys got him or whatever, or
I don't remember because because he's being very deceitful right now, so I can't remember what he actually said.
He just says I hired your dad to find Mewtwo. You have to find Mewtwo. That'll explain everything. And Tim's okay, I guess I will try and find Mewtwo. He gets help from the girl again.
Yeah, the intern.
They meet up, and she's well, I did some digging. And this thing happened, someone broke out of this weird jail out in the middle of nowhere when the same night that your father crashed, like in the same area. It's probably related. That's probably where Mewtwo was. They probably like had him there or something. So they go on a road trip.
Yeah, they drive out there, and this is the place where the opening scene of the movie happened.
So they go to this science facility. I guess it's been like, I don't know, like a week, maybe like a couple days since his dad died.
Yeah, like it feels like it's been like a few days. I think at one point they say last week, which implies like it's been maybe a week, but the time is,
I don't know,
very undefined.
It's cool. So we go, and we're going into this facility. It's abandoned. There's nobody there anymore, except for these weird Pokemon that they've been doing experiments with. There's a couple of Greninja in some pods that have had their power increased, and then there's these Torterra who are just like chilling in a terrarium.
Yeah,
and they're just chilling. They're just like, I'm just trying to sleep. Which Torterra don't really sleep that much. They actually are pretty like active. They're slow as shit because they're turtles, but like they're not just like laying underground and just sleeping or whatever. But whatever. So what happens next?
They basically find the chamber that the Mewtwo escaped from, and they're like, all right, well, something weird happened here, and then we enter another sequence of hologram.
I think that's
footage.
just like the excessive use of these like hologram flashbacks, kind of a little too much. In film, you want to show and not tell, right? So it's good that they like showed the actual stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that they were like, screw it, let's just have a gimmick where like we can just show the scene and not have people watching a 2D screen of the scene. We're just gonna be in the scene,
and like people instead of people like explaining what's going on.
So that was fine.
So apparently this neurologist is like a psychoneurologist who experiments on Pokemon brains. And they needed to capture Mewtwo because they wanted to take Mewtwo's energy and put it into the good Kush. So that's what like the Pokemon
they basically figure out that the Serum R, or the good Kush, came from the Mewtwo.
And so
somehow.
they like extract energy from the Mewtwo, and it makes Pokemon go nuts because they just get all this energy, and they're like, well, this is super powerful energy because Mewtwo is a legendary Pokemon. We'll get it, right? Also, forgot to mention the reason why I knew he was going to turn bad is because Big Clifford at the end is when he's like, Mewtwo is an abomination, right? It's like a man-made abomination. It was like, no, Mewtwo's not an abomination. He's
genius.
He's a good boy. It's like
he's a freedom fighter.
It's like, why calling him abomination? Yeah. So
then at this point, basically, it's revealed that there's all these cameras in the facility, which makes sense. Like, why would it? Like, I don't know how they got this far without being stopped. Like, I don't know why like no one's there, but there's footage. So Clifford Jr. has basically been watching on his security feed, and they're coming after him.
He's got great reception.
So he basically uses that great reception to remotely open the Greninja's cages.
Right. So those Greninja, pretty powerful Pokemon. They chase after the squad here, and basically are chasing around like the forest area that the lab is built in. They kind of chase them out of the lab, chase them through the forest until they get cut off at one certain point because the Psyduck,
yeah.
So the Psyduck comes in handy because the Psyduck has psychic powers as well, and this is my gripe here. I'm gonna bring it up, and it happens twice in the movie. So Greninja is a water type Pokemon. However, it's water dark. And there's only one way that I'm gonna buy this explanation here. Dark types are not affected by psychic at all. They have an immunity to psychic. So if any kind of psychic move tries to go to them, like the dark type won't, like it just because it's dark type, it doesn't work. However, Greninja does have a hidden ability that is called protein, or protean or something. It's not how you actually spell protein, but it looks like you want to say protein. Where when it does an attack, it changes its type to whatever attack it just did. So if they just did like a water attack, it becomes a water type, and that's because it's the preferred competitive use of Greninja. However, I don't think that the Kush unlocks hidden abilities in Pokemon. Don't know if that was ever established. I'm gonna go with that the Greninja are also just water dark here. They don't have the protein ability, and they shouldn't. because I realized that having, like, when I explained it to myself, my own logic of Pokemon was ruining what was happening in the movie. And then I was like, wait, but they could also have this ability that would make sense as to why. And I was like, damn it, Pokemon thought of everything.
This is what it's like for me to watch Game of Thrones Season 8, by the way, as a book reader. Is like, this all doesn't make sense even for its own self.
Right?
But once you even know the context of the books, it's even worse. But anyway, Psyduck basically, when he's too stressed, he explodes and sends out like a sonic boom. So he gets really stressed out by the Greninja attack and repels them. But it sends a sonic boom across the landscape around the facility they escaped from, at which point it's revealed that the ground is starting to shift. The ground is breaking apart, turning very Inception. You know, it looks like the cityscape turning on itself, but it's landscape, basically.
It's actually a pretty cool sequence.
That's the best action sequence of the movie.
So they have to, like, run and they get split up from each other, and they have to run to try to safety, meet up with each other, try to not fall into the into the cracks or get down and die and fall to their death.
Yeah, there's like a big river that's being revealed by all the shifting land.
Him and Pikachu jump, and they land on the other side to meet up with the lady. It's one of those, like, fake out death scenes, you know, like usual. And he makes it just fine, like hunky dory. And then all of a sudden they notice that there's a giant eye in front of their face. Obviously you see this coming because they show you the Torterra Terranium at the beginning, and it's these massive Torterras just chilling in the countryside there.
This is the Torterra Garden.
This is the Torterra's garden.
One of the characters says.
I think Detective Pikachu says that. So this is my... I guess it's like a big plot hole. Because if the bad guys have this giant Torterra garden, like, why didn't they use it? Right? Like, I guess, like, their goal is one thing, which we'll get to, but the Torterra garden doesn't fulfill that goal.
No, it seems entirely unrelated.
It's just, like, not related at all.
It's just like, how much can we fuck up these Pokemon?
And that's really cool that it happened, but now they have just, like, these basically, like, WMDs, right? Like, that's how powerful just having... It's almost like... It's not like a continent. No, even a country. But, like, having something...
They're like mountain-sized.
Yeah, like mountain-sized Pokemon, like, to your aid, even if they're not that strong, is, like... They know how to use the... Like, there's a move called Earthquake. Like, they would probably know how to use the Earthquake move, and, like, would actually make a significant Earthquake to...
Yeah.
Like, mess this stuff up. I don't know. I don't think, like... Okay, like, it's weak to... It's a grass type, so it's, like, weak to fire, but I don't think that if you have a bunch of them, there looked like there were, like, 5 or 6 of them, like, doing the whole range. All I'm just saying here is that these Torterra only show up for this particular action sequence, and they're just never thought about again. And I was thinking about them the whole time, because I'm like, why will the giant Torterra ever show up? So Pikachu gets injured in this whole sequence, like a big rock falls on him. Pikachu is very weak to... Is he weak to rocks? I think the Electric's weak to rock. I feel like it should be. I know Electric doesn't affect rock very well.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know if Electric is weak to rock necessarily. Doesn't matter. He gets hit by a rock, and
they don't really show it. I was a little confused as to what happened at first, because it shows a rock coming towards him, but then the rock breaks apart, and it seems like only like one of the pieces of it hits him, but we don't really see it. And then we only see the wound at, like, a glance. Like, when we see his arm move at one point, it's like basically covering... Seems like he got, like, some blood on his belly a little bit, but they don't really show it because it's rated PG.
Yeah. They get to safety, like, they fall in, like, a river or whatever, and they get to safety after Pikachu got hurt, and Tim's like, fuck, I want my Pikachu. He's my friend now. Like, we've been through a lot together. I want to try to save his butt. A Bulbasaur comes out of nowhere, and he tries to talk to the Bulbasaur to be like, hey, can you save my buddy? And the lady's like, he doesn't understand what you're saying. And he's like, oh, but he can feel it. And yeah, because Pokemon actually do understand what they're saying, which it's so weird because it's like she's talking to her Psyduck. Her Psyduck obviously is, like, understanding what's going on, but she, like, tells Tim that's like, oh, that Bulbasaur doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, that is a little bit strange. But this reminds me, one thing I really liked about it is whoever the voice actor was for Psyduck did a great job, because there are so many different ways to say Psyduck, and every time it's kind of like Groot. with like you actually do understand what they're saying, like what their intentionality is behind just saying their name, like because it's all in the tonation. So the Psyduck voice actor, good job.
So the Bulbasaur are like, yeah, we'll help out. They basically like take Tim and the Pikachu over to he's like, we need like a Pokemon who can heal him. And so they're like, yeah, just follow us. So they follow and they go into this like secret little passageway with this like cool little stone altar thing, and they're just like, yeah, put him there. And they put the Pikachu on there, and my big bad boy Mewtwo shows up, and he's like, hey, what's up, Tim? What's going on? I know you, brother. Cool. And shows Tim that he's not really such a bad guy, actually. He actually saved Pikachu from the crash. Like, he said that, like, humans are bad at one point. He was, like, showing... He, like, mind melded with Tim and was, like, showing him what was going on. But he heals Pikachu for Tim. And he was trying to reveal to Tim, like, what exactly, like, the plan was. He told Pikachu, like, thanks for bringing Tim here. Like, I needed him to do that. It's never really explained why.
No, that's not made clear. I was trying to just think, why does that happen?
It just was like, get his son or something.
Yeah.
But in the middle of it, it's cut off because the bad guys come. The Cliff Jr. is there. Does some, like, have some robots attack.
Yeah, it sends out these electric drones, basically, that trap Mewtwo and drag him back to another containment facility. But they leave Tim and Detective Pikachu alone. Like, they're not captured again. They don't try to go after Catherine Newton and her Psyduck again. Like, they just want Mewtwo. It's really... That was kind of a weird moment.
Yeah, it's not really thought out.
No, it's not thought out at all.
Whatever.
But our characters move on. And Pikachu...
Yeah.
Detective Pikachu now feels a little guilty because Mewtwo suggested that Detective Pikachu was somehow in on some sort of plan and was supposed to bring the sun, or somehow betrayed Harry.
Oh yeah, because they show that Detective Pikachu actually used like a Thunderbolt to unlock Mewtwo. Like Mewtwo, the only reason Mewtwo got out is because Detective Pikachu helped him escape.
Helped Mewtwo escape.
So it was like, well, Harry's dead because Mewtwo killed him, and Detective Pikachu thinks because he has amnesia that he killed Harry.
Yeah.
So they split up. Tim's like, I still have hope. And he runs out, and he's going back to the city to try to do something.
Yeah, he decides to go talk to the Big Red.
He wants to go find the Big Red Dad, and tries to go get him. Whatever her name is goes to. She wants to report the news about it or whatever, so she goes, and it's the day of the parade. So it's the big parade. Everybody's hooting and hollering. They're getting ready for good old Pokemon time. Tim goes back and meets Big Clifford, but Big Clifford actually is the bad guy the whole time.
Who saw it coming?
Me, as soon as he told me that Mewtwo is an abomination. So he stole Mewtwo back because they developed this headset that would let them mind meld, so that Big Clifford could get inside the mind of Mewtwo. So they put it on Mewtwo, they put it on Big Clifford, and then now Big Clifford is Mewtwo. And so the reason...
And there's actually... My favorite line in the movie is Big Clifford, as Mewtwo, says, "My body is in that chair, but I am in Mewtwo." Do you remember that?
Yeah. But I'm in Mewtwo.
Or even if that's not the exact line, it was awesome. It was really...
So...
It was bad.
I guess that, like certain tools can override a Pokemon's abilities. However... If Mewtwo's supposed to be, like, the strong... Like, they say outright multiple times in the movie that Mewtwo is the strongest Pokemon, which is false. Is not the strongest Pokemon. It's actually not even that good of a Pokemon. How would... Then, wouldn't his, like, psychic ability just be able to just resist it? Or... I guess if they get it into, like, a state where it is weak, like, you know, if you're able to capture a Pokemon by, like, hitting it a bunch of times and then throwing a ball at it. So, like...
It does kind of make sense. He's bound up by the electric shit. They have him all captured. It's like, all right, I guess they could have feasibly weakened him.
Right.
And he is his psychic connection is basically they're using it against him. You can almost logic it out.
So the reason why Clifford wants to become Mewtwo is because, you know, like he went out on like a spiritual journey and lived amongst Pokemon, which was his own idea for building this city. Because, like, he had, like, this disability now, he had this incurable disease or whatever, so he, like, can't walk anymore. So he realized that, like, well, Pokemon just evolve. So why can't, like, humans evolve? And the next logical step for humans to evolve is to just become Pokemon.
Because Pokemon can already improve themselves magically.
If we just improve, like, if we become Pokemon, we then can improve ourselves further. So we regress to improve. It's actually like the failing upwards mentality, is where you have to bring yourself and fail down to move up. So that's what his goal is. He developed the serum as well, the Pokemon Kush. And the reason being is that if the Pokemon are enraged, that's what the serum does, then what Mewtwo can do is actually swap the bodies of the Pokemon, or like they can take the human body and like put it into the Pokemon, or like the human consciousness and put it into the Pokemon.
Yeah, while they're in the altered state.
Which canonically is not a power that Mewtwo has. He cannot do that.
Yeah, and that's fine. They're clearly making some stuff up.
Making some stuff up for
if you accept that in this movie, Mewtwo is the most powerful known Pokemon, apparently, and you also accept that he has these psychic abilities, then sure, why not?
Like, psychic Pokemon can do pretty cool shit. Like, they can make like illusions or whatever, but they definitely cannot body swap people.
But they're not even swapping. They're just putting the people into the Pokemon, and that basically is revealed to be the big plan for the parade. Is all the floats release the perp, and turn the city of people into their Pokemon partners.
So that's what the Clifford, the Big Red Mewtwo, needs to do. He's turning them into the Pokemon partners. Detective Pikachu, meanwhile, like in a different section,
he's independently stumbled on the crash site,
and he figured out. He saw the Greninja star. That's what he figured out.
Yes, he saw the Greninja star on the ground.
So he was like, oh, it wasn't that the Mewtwo actually killed Harry. It was the Greninjas killed Harry. So
Mewtwo was actually trying to stop them or something.
Mewtwo came later and fucked up those Greninjas. Which, again, if Greninja's a dark type and Mewtwo uses Psychic Attack, it wouldn't have worked anyway. So, whatever. So they're fighting in the city. He gets back there pretty fast.
Because he's realized Clifford is evil.
Right, whatever. So he runs back to the city and he's like, I got to help them out. Detective Pikachu realizes that all these Pokemon are actually, like, humans in Pokemon bodies now. He talks to the girl who's in the Psyduck. She kind of, like, lets him know in what's going on. That Mewtwo is running the show now and is Clifford, I guess.
Yeah.
And they have a big fight on the floats or whatever. He learns how to use his abilities again. During all of this, Tim is in the office of Clifford. His son falls out of the closet there. He was just tied up in the closet.
Yeah, bound and gagged.
Pretty hot. And another Tim shows up who's actually transformed to the pink-haired chick because she's actually a Ditto.
Yeah, because they did have a throwaway moment earlier when Big Clifford has his Ditto, who is apparently his Pokemon, become a person to push his wheelchair. So they established that in the quickest of ways.
Totally forgot.
They established that so briefly early on that the Ditto is Big Clifford's Pokemon partner.
This is actually, like, in some points, this movie is like, what is going on? Like, this is poorly constructed. And then in other parts, it's like, that was clever.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even notice that.
It's a good mix of, like, kind of stupid and poorly thought out and, like, building to moments that pay off.
They hit, like, certain payoffs, but they have to put, like, bad structure in the middle of it to hit the good payoffs.
Which I think is not a good priority, but...
Whatever. I'm forgiving the sins of Detective Pikachu. Oh, holy Arceus, please forgive us for our wrongdoings.
Detective Pikachu died for our sins.
He died for our sins. So they have to fight. They have a fight with it. He literally is fighting the Ditto. Tim is, and it distracts him long enough for the Ditto to actually turn into like a Cubone, and it's like smacking him when he's like falling off there.
He's on the edge of the building, and you know, after turning into a Machop and something else as well, he's got him falling off the edge of the building, and he starts tapping his fingers with the bone, which is actually pretty funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious
to get him to fall off the building.
And the big Clifford Jr. kicks that guy out of there. He literally is animal cruelty dead up to that Ditto. Just doesn't give a shit. but totally fucks his ass up.
Yeah, it turns out that Lil Clifford, not a bad guy, still a huge dick. Like, he is a massive dick.
Terrible person, but like
not evil.
Not evil. Just like he's just like, my dad, definitely insane and evil, and like not what I wanted for our company at all.
Lil Clifford's just an egomaniac.
Like literally, Lil Clifford's an egomaniac, but he's not out of touch. Like he still understands the difference. Like he's like, I don't want to turn everybody into Pokemon. I just want to make a good profit. Like that's I will make significantly less profit if people are Pokemon because they don't commerce.
Yeah,
this
is a good moment to talk about the villains. So I do feel a little bit weird about the big villain basically being a disabled guy who is trying to like undo his disability, or is basically motivated by the fact that he's disabled, and that motivates him to fuck with the natural order. I don't know that I love that. It does make sense within the context of the movie that this guy would come to these conclusions, but it's a little iffy to me.
I'm gonna defend the villain's motivations here because all Pokemon villains have stupid goals. In Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire,
yes,
if you play Ruby, the bad guy's team goal is we're going to make a world with no water.
So all the land Pokemon.
It's just all land. There's too much water. And the bad guys in Sapphire, they want the world to just be all water. They're like, I just want it all water. Just please, water forever.
That is maybe my favorite blatantly bad guy plan. Like, it is, yeah, I love those games. I love Generation 3. And the bad guys in those are so clearly wrong.
In Generation 6, the bad guy wants to use the power of these like ancient Pokemons to literally actually just destroy the entire country. Like I don't remember why he wants to do it, but there's also a dude in it who's like mysterious and is like was the king of that world, of that region, from like the original war that the weapon of mass destruction that is trying to be recreated is from. And he just chills out and like he doesn't really help you. He kind of doesn't do anything. Gen 6 sucked. It had 2 good Pokemon in it. It had Greninja's from Gen 6, so
Greninja's pretty cool.
It had like 5 good Pokemon in it, and then everything else is bad about it. Where were we? What's going on in this movie?
So we're at a point where Detective Pikachu is trying to fight off the Mewtwo, and Clifford Jr. has rescued Tim from the side of the building.
I think they just beat the Ditto.
I don't remember I don't know.
They somehow beat the Ditto, and Detective Pikachu distracts Clifford Mewtwo enough to release
basically Tim. It'll give Tim the time to take the psychic connector off of Big Cliff.
So Mewtwo's like free from Big Clifford's grasp and everything. And does Big Clifford? Do they just straight up kill Big Clifford?
No, I think he's like arrested at the. I thought he was like carted away and arrested.
Yeah, carted away or something. Basically, they saved the day. Mewtwo is good, actually.
Yeah, he's fine.
And is like, I will undo literally everything that wrong has happened. So he puts everybody back into their own bodies.
And he still kind of thinks humanity is evil, but he thanks Detective Pikachu for showing him that not everybody is.
Not everybody's evil. And the big reveal comes a little bit later. So he's just like, there's one last thing I have to do, and explains the whole situation, that Tim's dad and Detective Pikachu were helping Mewtwo escape, but they got caught. And Detective Pikachu was like, I will give my life up if you can save Tim's dad's life. Mewtwo was like, I cannot bring him back to life, but I can put him in you. And so he takes Tim's dad and puts him in the Pikachu, but the Pikachu doesn't remember, which is why Tim can understand the Pikachu
because he's actually a person.
Because he's actually a person. So throughout the whole movie, you see these flashes of Tim's dad, and you never see his face. And as soon as the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, it's Ryan Reynolds, right?" So at the end of the movie, it's like this big flash where it's like, "Yeah, I saved his life," right? Detective Pikachu is your dad. So at the end of the movie, like Tim's going back home, and Detective Pikachu's like, "Hey kid," but it's not Detective Pikachu. It's Ryan Reynolds. So Ryan Reynolds is back in the movie. Detective Pikachu's just a regular Pikachu with a hat on. He's not. It's just he's still there, and he's like, "I'm gonna miss you, kid," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna miss you too," and then he actually is like, "You know what? I'm gonna not go back to the suburbs because they suck." He threw his train ticket out, and he's like, "I'm gonna live with you, Dad. I'm 21 years old. I'm gonna live in that room with the Pikachu bed still." And that's the end of the movie. He's like, he lives with his dad, who was a Pikachu for for a couple days.
Which, I will say I did not see it coming that Detective Pikachu was Harry.
I knew immediately.
Because and it makes complete sense because of course he has amnesia. He's the only one who can talk to people. Like, we reveal during the climactic battle that this is what it's all about. It's the mind meld. So I don't know how I didn't see it coming, but I think it's just because it's so bonkers that why would I have thought they'd go there?
I knew it immediately.
Like, Detective Pikachu is your dad. Like, I appreciate the shit out of this movie for deciding to be that weird. Make movies weirder. If you're gonna do an adaptation of a franchise that everyone knows, I'm so glad they didn't just do training up to go to the Elite Four. Like, it's not just the most obvious version of a Pokemon movie. They really do get fucking weird with it, and I appreciate that, even if I don't think the movie's great or anything.
Final thoughts.
Detective Pikachu is all of our dads.
I wish Detective Pikachu was my dad.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this movie to normal people, or only to people who want to see some Pokemon movies?
I would say if you have a kid, take them to it. Like, if they want to go to it, take them to it.
I think I heard, like, the kid in the audience say to his mom, "Stop asking me questions." She was probably like, "Which one's Pikachu?"
Yeah, that's why I said earlier, I don't know that I can actually recommend this movie to anyone who isn't familiar with Pokemon, because it does... You kind of need to have, like, a baseline of who Mewtwo is, at least. Like, if you have no idea who Mewtwo is, I guess it'll still basically make sense. It's like, fine, it's a powerful Pokemon. Whatever. That's all you really need to know. But a lot of the joy of the movie comes from recognizing the Pokemon in that part of our brain as they come on screen. That is a big level of the enjoyment of the movie.
You're just like, "Oh, that's a guy I know.
That's Growlithe. That's Machop."
Yeah,
this
is cool. I going into it, I was like making fun of myself for going to see it, and I still am. But walking out of it, it's like it's not like the worst thing I've seen, like, in a movie theater.
No, I've seen worse movies this year.
Yeah, like I enjoyed it a lot. Some moments are like corny and stupid, but it's what you get from a kids movie.
Yeah, I don't know what else you'd expect.
It's not directed towards me, and then there's jokes that are directed towards me and that I'm like cracking up at because it's hilarious.
Yeah, the tonal variation helps.
The shift in tones is just wild. Like, I went from like, he's a cute Pikachu to be like, oh, cocaine joke. Like, not even like 3 seconds, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's it tries to be a little bit for everybody. They definitely chose the Detective Pikachu angle because I think any Pokemon movie they made, kids were going to go see. People who are currently children and are aware of the Pokemon phenomenon are going to want to go see this movie no matter what. But I think they chose the Detective Pikachu angle to try to get people like us who were and still are on some level fans of the franchise, but are certainly adults now and aren't necessarily going to see every kids movie. They chose this to definitely lure us in. And, you know, is that a little cynical? Maybe. Did it work? Yes.
I liked Detective Pikachu. I like coffee. I like drugs. And this movie's got a lot of it.
Yeah, if you want something that is like, you know, it's going to go through a lot of familiar story beats, but still have the ability to surprise you, you know, occasionally.
Sometimes,
you know,
sometimes surprised.
You know, you saw the twist coming, I did not. And,
this is just a Pokemon world, and we're just living in it.
Yeah, I think in the movie they say this is Mewtwo's world,
This is Mewtwo's
and we're
world.
just living it.
We're just
Do they
living
say that at one point?
I know, but there's a song called like where the lyrics are, "We all live in a Pokemon world," like, and I want to be the master of them all. And I'm like, yeah, this is a Pokemon world, and I'm just living in it, baby.
Yeah, if you want to see Pokemon and people hanging out, go see this movie. If you want to see Ryan Reynolds do his shtick as a Pikachu, go see this movie.
I think that he honestly, like, if I watch movies and it's just Ryan Reynolds' voice in it and I don't gotta look at him, that's cool. I'm cool with that. I would definitely see if they make another follow-up like real world Pokemon movie.
The sequel's already been greenlit.
Oh, it's Detective Pikachu 2?
Yeah, it's happening.
Is it going to be like, is it Ryan Reynolds? We don't know what's...
I don't think there's anything announced about it yet.
I will see the second one.
But I would imagine it's going to be the same cast.
I'm going to follow up with the continuing adventures of Detective Pikachu. Hopefully, we'll get to discover cool Pokemon instead of Mewtwo, who's kind of lame.
I'm definitely disappointed there was no Ninetales, because that's a beautiful Pokemon.
I'm glad my favorite Pokemon made it into the movie. My second favorite Pokemon did not make it into the movie. My third favorite Pokemon, Gengar, made it into the movie.
What are those?
Top number 1 is Totodile. Number 2 is Mawile. It's Totodile, like crocodile, and he's very cute. He likes to bite things, and I love him to death. The Mawile is like kind of looks like a little girl, but she has like for her ponytail is like a giant mouth.
Yeah, I
remember. It, like, opens up and
I remember that.
Hits you real bad. And then Gengar's a cool little ghost guy. He's fat and jumps around and likes to stick his tongue out. Who's your favorite Pokemon? You said Ninetales?
I like Ninetales a lot. I like Groudon just because I played Ruby a shit ton.
The big red lobster.
Yeah, I think he's cool.
They should bring Groudon in. Groudon's great.
Fun. I think what is interesting is the audience for a movie. There was, I think, right in front of us was a couple, probably around our age, maybe a little younger, probably around our age though. Yeah. And then there were also, and then sitting behind us was another group of guys. There were at least 2 families in there.
What's great about Pokemon is that it's inclusive, universal. Anybody can love it. I had growing up a tape that I used to watch religiously. It was a tape of this 90s ass guy, like you could just picture him, just 90s to a T, and he went to a Pokemon tournament and like interviewed kids and interviewed like the parents there, and one of the parents was famous Ghostbuster Ernie Hudson. And he just shows up and he's just like, I love Pokemon, I love hanging out with my kid playing Pokemon. And they just play Pokemon cards and it's great. And there's one kid in it, he fucking kills me every time. He's like, Charizard's not even that good of a card. I had like 6 Charizards and I have 2 now, but I traded like 4 of my Charizards away from good cards. I'm like, why'd they let this kid in? He's totally lying. He's just that kid on the bus. You know, you had that kid on the bus or the kid at school.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
My dad works at Pokemon.
It's like, I can get you this card, yeah.
It's like, yeah, you don't even know, like, your dad works in Seattle, where Wizards of the Coast is, where they print these cards out. Your dad works in Japan, where they make the Pokemon. Yeah, okay, kid. Big liar.
Yeah, I think this movie, the experience of this movie is, I imagine, the experience of being a parent and having your kid explain Pokemon to you.
If that's like the first impression that you have of Pokemon is this movie, I want to be you so bad. I want to just be you so bad, but I can't because I've had 17 points to my name to go to the World Pokemon. Like, you have to earn, I think it's like 400 points to actually qualify for the World Championships. I got 17.
You're on your way.
I was on my way.
I don't know that I would recommend it as a full movie experience, but if you like Pokemon, you will probably have at least a decent
If
time.
you really want the Detective Pikachu drinking a coffee on your to like put at your desk at work so people could talk to, like, just to have it there and so people can be like, oh, you like Pokemon, then it's totally worth like the $13 to go and get this like 2 cents card and have an experience with other adult people watching this movie. But if you're not into the card and you don't want to be that person at your job, then just wait till it comes out on like fucking like Netflix. Or
Yeah,
something.
I would say watching this on Netflix. Like, I can't say I would say stay away from this movie. Netflix feels like the right recommendation for this one.
But only if like you're on a account that like has your own profile. So like, you know, if you're like sharing a profile with somebody, definitely don't, because you're gonna get recommendations for like to watch more Pokemon on Netflix. I don't know if that's up your alley though.
Yeah, the movie leans really hard, as we've said, on the daddy issues thing, both with the villain and the protagonist, and
Well,
that's not new ground in
protagonist
cinema.
in Pokemon, Ash doesn't have a dad either.
Yeah, it's not new ground in cinema. It's not new ground in Pokemon. They
You
do
don't have
hit
a
it
dad in
well.
Pokemon.
Like they do, and I think the reveal that Detective Pikachu is his dad does in fact make the what felt like during the movie like like Pikachu's like, oh, like I push people away thing. It's like, okay, like I guess that's true, but you have amnesia, so how do you know that? But like, okay, that is true because he failed to connect with his son, the son failed to connect with him, and they do end up getting to reconcile. It does tell its story successfully. I wouldn't call it a failure of a movie, but I don't know that I can say it's great.
10 out of 10. I want that good Pokemon Kush.
I would smoke some Pokemon Kush.
I'd get high with some Ivysaur. What are some other weed Pokemon?
Oh, Ivysaur is perfect.
Ivysaur's like always high, dude.
Oh, what's the one with the? There's Oddish, and then what is Oddish?
Vileplume.
Vileplume. Fucking Vileplume. Vileplume is
shit.
Definitely the weed Pokemon.
Yo, I want a Vileplume bong.
That would be so killer. That would not be some Vileplumes. Those would be some.
That would not be Vileplume.
That would be some tasty plumes.
All right. Good job, everybody.
All right, that's Detective Pikachu, Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
The case is solved. This is a good movie. I love Pokemon.
We solved it.
I love Pikachu.
Yeah, we're gonna figure out what this is called.
We'll figure it out.
You can hit us up on Twitter. What's your at?
At Luke Hennigan, you know the name.
And mine is at Story Politics. It's my new Twitter. I haven't tweeted from it yet. That's my new public Twitter.
That's great.
By the time you're listening to this, I'll have tweeted something from it.
One thing.
And hopefully we'll have some set up for this podcast as well.
Follow us on the pod. iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, all the pod places that you can get it. SoundCloud. We're SoundCloud rappers now.
This is our SoundCloud. Thank you for listening to us rap.
Shout out to the pod.